Hi there, Tom Pace from Talk of the Town, and today over at the Caddo Registrar Voters Office, Ernie Roberson, if you will, and it's a less than 100 days before the November 4th big election for this fall. Today, a special election video on qualifying and other parts to the election process with Ernie Roberson. Ernie, isn't it just right down the road, qualifying?
Yeah, we're just a few weeks away from qualifying. It starts August 20 through 22 at the Caddo Clerk's office in the main courthouse, while the registrar doesn't have much responsibility whenever it comes to the qualifying procedures. A lot of times we're here mainly for addresses and party changes and that sort of thing, but it's kind of the kickoff for what's fixing to happen. It's going to be a big election this fall.
Because this happens once every 10 years or so, that you have this myriad of elections, save the governor and members of the Louisiana House and Senate.
Right. This is the judicial cycle. So you'll throw in the U.S. Senate with it, U.S. Congress, and the redistricted city council, as well as the mayor of Shreveport and the school board. We did a similar cycle in 2008 with a judicial cycle, but they run every 6 years, so we're back to running them again. You'll see all the judges on the ballot. Public Service Commissioner is going to be on the ballot, as well as a lot of other things too. This is a big cycle.
Okay, if you want to learn more about this, the easiest place is where on the website?
Well, actually, go to caddovoter.org, caddovoter.org, and you can find out a lot of the election information you'll need to know. You can also find out where you go to vote, and of course, that's the most important thing to know before Election Day. Where do I go to vote? And you can check on that by just clicking on Am I Registered? And then go in there, type in your name as registered, put in your zip code, and then you'll be able to look up and make sure that we've got your correct address, because of course we've done the canvass now. If you did an address change, or if somebody in your household did an address change, we want to make sure we got your address correct, as well as your party information, anything else. Check it while you're there and find out where to go. We've also got some polling place changes throughout Caddo Parish that are going to be popping up and going through over the next month or so before qualifying starts. So that's another thing that you've got to be looking for.
It is complex. District lines have changed, and so now they're having to look through all of this, and also if they need to make changes to their address, to all of this. And by the way, do they need to register now if they're not already registered?
I'd go ahead and get it registered now, because if you go ahead and register now, if you do have some sort of problem, it's really, you got plenty of time to fix it, more or less, right now. You can also, of course, register online now in Louisiana, but you're going to need your driver's license or special Louisiana ID to pick up that audit code that's right beside your photo, and that's the fraud prevention that we use in Louisiana. But it's real important, because October 6th is the deadline to register to vote, but as I always tell people, you're better off to do it even a couple of months in advance to make sure that everything's okay and that you're ready to go vote.
You stop and think about that. You think about all of the various candidates, but there's also a big number of constitutional amendments. I believe there's going to be 14 this year. 14
constitutional amendments, and you still only got 3 minutes to go vote. So you've got to know those constitutional amendments and how you're going to vote on them before you go in there, plus the fact that pretty much everybody, of course, is going to vote on U.S. Senate, because it's going to be a parish-wide election. There'll be some other parish-wide elections, and then, of course, the mayor of Shreveport citywide. You could be voting on a city council, school board member. There are other races on there, too. We've got a couple of judges that look like they're going to be challenged. So all of that goes together to say it's a complex election. Not everybody votes on the same thing. This is not one of those things everybody gets cheese on their hamburger. This is one of those deals where it's very specialized. While you may be living across the street from me, that line for that district may be right down the middle of the street, and I'll be voting on somebody different than you do. So it's very important to know where do I go to vote, and then what are my districts.
So now you need to look at this election in a very special way. Less than 100 days from the voting on November the 4th, and the voting registration ending on October 6th. So now all of a sudden it becomes front and center. Your vote could be the deciding vote in whatever ballot items you were voting for, and also early voting around the corner.
Right, early voting starts October 21st, which is a Tuesday. This is going to be a Tuesday election on November the 4th, so early voting starts on a Tuesday, and it ends on October the 28th. Of course, we're closed on that intervening Sunday, October the 26th. But we're going to be open here at our office, 525 Marshall, at the corner of Milam and Marshall downtown, across from the courthouse, each day from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And Tom, I'm already telling people, you're going to be waiting probably 30 minutes, maybe an hour. It just depends. We feel like the turnout for early voting will probably be about the same as what we saw in the presidential election, which was 8,800 voters in about 6 days. So whenever you have about 1,500 people per day coming to vote, we were turning them through. Usually the line, most folks got voted within 30 minutes, and the line wasn't all that long. But be prepared, you might have to wait. And also another problem, of course, downtown is you got to find a parking place.
But I understand, since this is, and isn't early voting still till about 6 o'clock?
It's till 6 o'clock each day, and of course I always encourage people, and remember that a lot of the workers downtown leave about 4:30, and so sometimes there's some parking places available after then. And plus the fact that if you're in line at 6, you're going to get to vote, and we'll just bring that line inside and lock the door behind you, and we'll vote everybody that's there until we finish. But I do want to remind people too, make sure you bring your ID. We'll have some copies of the constitutional amendment for you to read through, but you still only get 3 minutes to vote.
That's a tough. It's going to be a challenge. Now the other part to it is, what about if you're handicapped, and where is your place in line with that, and is there special parking?
In front of our office, we do have two spots for handicapped voters. You can pull up there if they're available, and of course park there during the time you're here to vote. Handicapped voters, if they are marked for assistance, do get to go to the front of the poll, front of the line, and they get to vote from there. But we have a lot of folks who are disabled or who have some type of handicap mobility problem. So it isn't like you're just going to walk in and go to the front, because there may be other people waiting to get there too. So I do want to encourage people that while early voting is a convenience, and of course candidates are always pushing people toward early voting, there's going to be a line, and that's just part of it, and it's one of those things. So if you'd rather go to the polls, generally sometimes it's a little quicker to go to the polls than it is to come down here, but it's a Tuesday election. So.
And the other thing you have to remember, early voting, there is only one location. That's right here at the Caddo Registrar Voters Office, correct?
That's correct. This is the only location for early voting, and we do want to tell people also, make sure if you're going to go vote at the polls that you actually know where you're going, and there can be more than one location voting in that building. We've got some buildings that are housing 3 different precincts, so make sure you know your precinct number and get in the right line for your precinct number.
Okay, let's talk about Election Day, because it's coming up on November the 4th. What day of the week is that?
That's another Tuesday election, and we're going to open the polls at 6 a.m. in the morning, and they'll be open till 8 p.m. at night. And make sure you take your ID with you when you go to vote at the polls, and make sure you know where you're going to vote.
Hours on Election Day, and what's the best recommendation you have?
6 a.m. in the mornings when we open, and there's always a goodly group at most polls that go to vote early. And then 8 p.m. at night is when they will close. They'll take in everybody who's there at 8 p.m. They'll get to vote. I would just say it depends. It really depends more on if you're in a precinct where more of the folks are retired, or if you're in a precinct where everybody's still working. So they may not be coming until after 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Usually during the day it gets a little bit slower in the afternoons.
Okay, so we're talking about actually on the day of election. Get out there and go to your precinct. Again, if you log on to caddovoter.org, you'll be able to see exactly where you vote. You'll know the location. It'll show up there. And then there's also the Secretary of State's website.
Right. It's a very similar website. We hook into that website. You can go directly to it. GEAUX, GO, the South Louisiana version of GO, GEAUX, vote, VOTE. and that's all one word, .com. You can also, Tom, download the app there. If you're working in one of the campaigns or you want to help people find out where to go vote, there's an app you can download for your smartphone, and you'll be able to look up this information through your smartphone. And I'd really highly suggest that to anybody who's involved in the political process, because you can tell people where they're registered as well as where they go to vote. That could really help them out and might be the difference.
Are you going to have any kind of a forum for candidates that need information about registering for qualifying?
Well, not for qualifying, but we will be doing a candidate seminar after we get through with qualifying. We'll find out who's actually running, people who are challenged, and that way it'll kind of cut down the size of who will be here. And we will have one of those, and we'll be announcing that a little bit later.
Well, there you have it, everything you need to know about the November 4th election coming up. This is the big one, if you will, for most parts of the United States. It's the midterms, if you will, and it's got everything from soup to nuts on it. And if you would, just go to caddovoter.org and you can click on all the different icons that will tell you where do I vote, how do I vote, what is the location, give me the information. All of that on caddovoter.org. Ernie Roberson, Caddo Parish Registrar of Voters. Final thoughts, Ernie?
Know where you go to vote. That's the main thing. That's the real key, and make sure you know your precinct number, because it might be in a polling place that has more than one precinct.
There you have it. Special election update. The fall election for 2014. Tom Pace on the Talk of the Town from the Caddo Registrar of Voters office.